You know, what happens and what we're trying to inspire here today is hopefully there's a room full of entrepreneurs out there that get some sense of watching these presentations and saying, wow, I think that's a great idea. I've got my own idea. You know, I think that that's something that could be relevant to me. I want you to look at these presenters on stage and say, you know, I could do a better job than that. I'm better than that person. You know, I want you to think about how you get that competitive flair going. That competitive flair that built our country. Entrepreneurship is one of the most undersold resources that we have as a nation. And it's probably one of the most important resources that the entire world is charging after, particularly the developing nations. I have a saying we use at Under Armour, and if you've been here or been to our presentation before, you've heard me say it. We were always smart enough to be naive enough to not know what we could accomplish. We were smart enough to be naive enough to not know what we couldn't accomplish. And that idea is about why not us? Why not me? Why not you? Dean Anand, when he came up and sat with me too, he said, you know, it's interesting, and I took him around and gave him a tour of the Under Armour headquarters and our offices, and he said to me, he said, you know, it's great being here. It's unusual being here in Maryland, though. And I said, you know, how is that, Dean? He said, well, what we need to do, and at the business school, we need to foster more and more, is the ability for more companies like this. Is that typically you see high-growth companies that come out of Silicon Valley, they come out of Boston, they come out of New York. And what our goal and the ambition of this competition and the vision of Dean Anand and I think the entire Maryland community is for us to drive and empower entrepreneurship, for us to take that idea of all of us believing in the fact that we can be smart enough to be naive enough to not know what we can accomplish. You saw a lot of that up on stage from our entrepreneurs who presented to you earlier. And I empower all of you to go home and to think about that. You have an idea, you think it might be you. There's a saying, it was actually attributed to the chairman of Sony several years ago. And it said that perfection is the enemy of innovation. Perfection is the enemy of innovation. And what that effectively means is that how many entrepreneurs are sitting out there with a great idea, tinkering in their garage right now, waiting to get this concept out there, waiting to get the idea out there, but it's not quite perfect yet. The criteria that we use at Under Armour whenever we look at a product or whenever we decide to do something is that it must be better than what's currently available on the market. It may not be the perfect vision of what we have, but sometimes you have to get in the game in order to make it improve. Don't ever settle. Don't ever let a product just be okay or just barely good enough. But I challenge all of us to think in that way as you could. So from the idea, and I wouldn't even call it the vision, of one entrepreneur who sat exactly where you are right now as a student on this campus, and with the most important quality being the ability to, first and foremost, attract and build a great team. All those things, all those impacts, all those impressions of our brand that you see came much farther beyond anything that I ever thought could happen. But I did believe just one person at a time, one resource at a time, one network at a time. And the majority of those networks were built and founded here at the University of Maryland. My first partner at Under Armour was a guy named Kip Fulks. And Kip was a lacrosse player here at Maryland. And Kip was he was a different kind of a guy, to say the least. If you know lacrosse players, you know what I'm talking about. But what we had is we had a great yin and a yang, the way that we balanced, the way that we worked with one another. And the team that we put together is not always the team who's got the most perfect pedigree, who comes from the best schools and comes from the other pieces, but it's about the chemistry, and ultimately that chemistry is what builds your culture. Our culture happens to be built much like a team, right? And as we say is that, you know, our company operates still like a team. You know, we use sales and marketing as like our offense. Manufacturing, distribution is like our defense. Finance and IT are like our special teams. And what we find out is that more than acting like maybe an American football team, we're more like a European football team. It's not one team on the field at a time. It's all of us on the field at a time. And the way we communicate is one of the most important aspects that we have of our business. What you see behind me is actually an image from my office. And in my office, I keep these whiteboards there. And there are 3 panels across, they're 5 panels deep. And on them, I keep everything from a depth chart of our team and, you know, who we have and who we're hiring and who we're thinking about hiring. And I can assure you I keep those on magnets so I can slide them around, I can pull them off, I can throw them in the trash can, I can pick them up and find them again and be like, oh yeah, I really like that girl again. Let me put that guy back up. You got to be thoughtful with your team. right? And you have to understand is that their success or their failure is always a reflection on the culture that we build, the team that we have, and the parameters that we put in place in order to build our team. The number one quality that every entrepreneur, every business that you saw right now, and the number one criteria that we're looking to evaluate is what is the likelihood of these entrepreneurs to be able to attract and retain great talent. And the key component is how are they going to be able to communicate with that talent. So one of the things that we do is on these boards we keep statements, things written. And I call them themes. We run this company much like a team. Listen more than you talk. Overpromise and deliver. Walk with a purpose. Dictate the tempo. Overpromise and deliver. All these things are meant to represent the culture of what is our brand. And that, of course, is something which is never overshadowed by the company that we are, the company that we were, but most importantly, the company that we define and we see ourselves as becoming. And one of those is, I didn't realize I've been saying this for longer than a year, but I guess I did say this last time. The one that you will not hear me talk about today, and I was very proud of all of our contestants for saying today, is that nobody started things off with, in light of the current environment, despite of everything going out there, about the fact that Dow dropped 1,000, none of those things, that there was nothing that we call no loser talk, right? We don't want to hear loser talk because we're all dealing with the same hurdles and obstacles. We're all dealing with the same issues, and it's all about our ability to right now build a great team. Particularly from an entrepreneur standpoint, I don't think there's ever been a better time to start a company than today. You've got the week out. You've got much of the crowd is gone. And the opportunity for you today is to build and to make something much different. So if I could, that actually began for myself, a very long time ago. Again, this is a photo, you saw it in that video, of myself at 12 years old. So 1984. And this was me at just a little kid that had the only options you had prior to Under Armour, where it was a short sleeve cotton t-shirt in the summer and a long sleeve cotton t-shirt, or in this case, a long sleeve flannel shirt to be worn underneath your equipment. It would be thought of as absurd today. And what I challenge and what I test all of you with is that what's this idea in your industry? This is my sport. This is what I knew. This is my passion. And I was able to combine my own thinking like an entrepreneur, thinking like someone who can, what's the great idea? What's the problem that I can solve? Was to get in, to kick off, and to start my business. And for all the entrepreneurs in the room, you need to know is that these don't always have to begin with the large private equity. They don't always have to begin with large gobs of money. It begins with one entrepreneur and one idea, and again, their ability to communicate and their ability to build a great team. But before you do that, you better get ready to be lonely. This is close to circa 1996 in a Georgetown row house in what was affectionately the dining room. And I don't know, our guys from Social Growth had that fancy name for their apartment in Columbia. This was literally just a dining room that we converted into an office at the time. And within that, you have to be ready to make decisions, and you have to be ready to grow. And with that, from that first year in 1996, we did $17,000 in sales. And our growth and where we've gone to date has taken us in a much different direction. 17,000 quickly went to 110,000 to 400,000, million, 3, 5 million, 20 million, 50 million. All the way up to this past year in 2009, we did $856 million. And that's not the story, is because, we're always quick to say is that we don't know how it ends. Our current outlook has us gauged somewhere between $965 and $985 million. And if you know anything about the spirit of our great state or the spirit of our school, and frankly, the spirit of Under Armour, you'll know if you think that we're willing to stop at $985 million, we're goal-oriented in a group. I'd like for us all to hold hands today and commit that if we do need that last $15 or $20 million, you will all let me ship it to your houses and allow Under Armour to break $1 billion this year, right? Darn it. I'm only kidding. You don't have to do that. It's just a joke. But it is about how we're going in the future. Because so much of the platform that we're building, we're focused on today, and I encourage all of you to think like entrepreneurs to do, it's not about the 2010 plan for us as much as it's about the 2020 plan. Where are we headed? What is the direction that we're heading? And what will be the defining products that will take us there? For instance, our goal is not being this company that developed, just makes tight-fitting T-shirts for men and women. I don't want that burden on my shoulders of people walking around in spandex all day. I want better product. But I mean that. I want you walking around and I want you to think about this is not just another shirt that I use to cover my body. This is a product that's actually enhancing. It's helping me. And it's part of the theory that we bring at Under Armour. And that innovation will come from many different places beyond just our own walls. This company has not built its defining product as a brand yet. And that concept is something that we drive through our organization, through our innovation team, through our research and development team. And I like to refer to it much closer to not just an R&D team, but more like a commercialization team. If I just give you just really quickly, and I want to speak today about innovation, and innovation in the way that we think about it. And I just asked, maybe there's some parallels that will draw this to you. I saw this document, and I'm involved with Johns Hopkins in their hospital up there. They've been great for, along with the University of Maryland up there as well. But I saw this graph in a board book with Johns Hopkins, and it was basically that definition of how universities monetize and make money. And it's the concept about how you get a drug to market. And imagine if you could for a second, on the left you have this idea or this problem. And call the problem, for lack of a better one, call it heartburn. I've got heartburn, and we need to solve the issue and the problem of heartburn. So on the left is the problem, and all the way to the right, the one idea is, call it Nexium, this one pill that will work. So the way that the drug companies figure out and think about how am I going to innovate and how am I going to be great is they start with the cloud. They start with 10,000 ideas. And they encourage those 10,000 ideas to be funneled down to 250 ideas that they rely on the university, on the academic community to call out, to take 10,000 and turn it into 250. 250 is where you have the best universities in the world are going out and they're attracting the big drug companies to give them money, to help them solve problems, to fund research. And it's at the point where they can take 10,000 down to 250 that the university's job is to call that into 5 jobs, 5 great ideas. And within those 5 ideas that's where the drug companies buy them then back from the universities. That is where the monetization happens. And this whole process is about 10 to 12 years. And the first 6 or 7 of them is just in that research. And if you can imagine, how do you think about innovation from not having to start just with what's the big problem, but how can you leverage the platform? And for us at Under Armour, we think about how can we leverage our great brand name into the greatest ideas in the world. So where we want to live, and you see the circles up there, is not necessarily on the left side of the screen where we're just working on the R&D and just the big ideas that are 12 years away, but how do we work with the great ideas that are much, much closer to us? So there's a couple ways that we do and we deal with that. The first one is this item we actually developed in-house. It's called our Recharge Recovery Suit. And it's about changing the game with the way that athletes prepare. And think about it as simple as a baseball player, a pitcher, for instance, who takes 5 days typically to recover. So you need 5 great pitchers on your baseball team. Imagine instead of needing 5 days rest, you could recover that same pitcher in just 4 days rest. Imagine if you could take an athlete that typically takes 6 or 7 days to recover, that you could do it in 4 to 5 days. This type of thinking is where we're growing and what we're thinking about internally as a company. But when I referred to the graph before, we think about it with products like what we call our core short. Our core short was this item. You see it pictured in the athlete to the top. And you see the athlete here taking off and running. It was a compression short that I actually found in an NHL locker room one day and going out and visiting the market. I took a friend to a New York Rangers hockey game. We walked downstairs, and I said, wait till you see, we're going to walk down, and after the game, it was 10 o'clock at night, hockey players, that they actually work out harder after a game than they do during a game. They're worried about getting the lactic acid out of their legs. They're on the recumbent bikes. They're in their jumping rope and exercising. And I said, wait, all these guys will be wearing Under Armour. We do business with every one of them. It'll be the most amazing thing. So we walked in, and sure enough, every one of these guys is wearing an Under Armour shirt. But on their bottom, they were wearing these shorts. And I'm looking at them and saying, what is that compression short that these guys are wearing? And I asked the trainer. He said, well, it's called the core short. It was developed by a Canadian physiologist who actually spent 12 years defining, refining, making and enhancing just this one product. And I thought about that concept or that idea of making one great product was fascinating to me. So I thought to myself, can I buy this product? Can I beat this product? Right? Can I license this product? So quickly we went out and we struck a relationship with this one athlete who'd had it verified by more than 30 NHL teams that were wearing this product. And I'm able to take that product that he had forecasted at about 10 to 12,000 units in a single year. And by putting it in, enhancing the fabrications, enhancing the cut, the design, the style, put in the Under Armour pipeline. And instead of selling 10 to 12,000 units, we'll sell hundreds of thousands of units at a better price point for the consumer, and again, delivering a great product to the market. Innovation, innovation, innovation. Another concept is this idea we have in a mouth guard, and you think an Under Armour mouth guard would be, we can probably put our logo on it and sell it, was typically a $10 or $12 item for $15 or $20. The idea here is a mouth guard that actually makes you better. Not relying on us just assigning a product line manager to say, now you go figure the mouth guard market out for us. But again, aligning with a scientist who has more than 25 years refining and focusing, coming up with the best mouth guard in the world. And this is actually a guy who was the founder of Shock Doctor, but sold it to private equity 7 or 8 years ago. Came back with a better concept or idea, which was a mouth guard that instead of just a basic boil and bite, with this one, it has a small wedge in the back of your mouth that when you bite on it, it reduces the amount of cortisol or the things that make you anxious and nervous. And it also helps align your jaw, which helps align your spine, which gives you greater flexibility and greater movement, which reduces the speed at which you fatigue, which ultimately reduces your speed to injury. Again, all these concepts and all these ideas that we bring up is not just about how do we slap a logo on a product and sell it and make money on it, but how do we make an athlete better. But we also know that without making athletes just better, we needs to look cool. A great example of that is this is an image of what the United States bobsled team looked like prior to a relationship with Under Armour. Black uniforms, kind of wear tested, white USA down the left leg for these guys, and just frankly not that compelling. So what we want to do is take product that not only works great, but make sure that it looks great. So we took a uniform that looked like this and ended up dressing Steve Holcomb and ultimately the U.S. gold-winning 4-man bobsled team, and we dressed them out like this. Taking a Captain America theme that ultimately had them on the front page, the front cover of Sports Illustrated. And let them look like this. And I can tell you this was a peculiar bunch dealing with these bobsledders, right? And they absolutely have a point of view. But when you think about great product, of course, it has to perform great, right? It has to look great, and it also must have great quality to it. And I know we have a mixed audience here, but I want to caution you, if you look away in this next, because I'm going to show you what happens when quality is not always taken to be the most important thing when you build a product. This actually comes from one of our competitors. You see a logo prominently worn. I believe one of our competitors or one of our presenters had that on. So they're getting ready for the bobsled. Here you go. Whoa, my goodness, what happened? Quality was not at the top. Now, I'm not going to tell you who exactly in our company was watching the Ellen show at 10:30 in the morning that picked up this piece of important video. But darn it, I'm glad that they were. Examples of what not to do. This brand has not built its defining product as a company yet. We're out there, we're looking for it. Maybe that defining product will be that mouth guard and it'll take off. Maybe it'll be, our recharge suit and everyone will be wearing one underneath of their suit someday. Maybe it'll be another shirt that actually has thermostat on it that if, say, it's a little cool in here, I can warm myself up. A little warm in here, I can cool myself off. But why not? Why don't we think like that? Who's the company that's out there considering and contemplating that for you? That's the role that we're supposed to do, deliver great product. Maybe it's apparel, maybe it's footwear, maybe it's an accessory. We're out there, we're driving, and we're determined to make it work and make it happen. And in all of that, we are a product company first and foremost. But one of the best products that we build and manufacture as a company is our ability to tell great stories. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so impressed with how far this competition has come. Thank you all for being here, being a part of it, supporting our entrepreneurs as well. I encourage you, if you are sitting on an idea, whether it's on your laptop, whether it's in your garage, whether it's in your basement, whether it's in the back of your car, give it a shot, right? And the best advice I ever received, find out if your product can sell. Don't let anybody talk you out of it. Give it a chance. Try. Make it happen. This is our greatest asset as a nation and one that we have to continue to encourage. You don't have to go broke. You don't have to bet everything on it, but you can start one day at a time, taking a chance and seeing if you too can build a great company. We're still a long ways from it. We have a long road in front of us, but we continue to focus on the things that are important, communicating and building the best team in the world. I'm very proud of what we've done so far, but I can promise you, again, the 2020 plan is one that is a multinational, right, global, multi-billion-dollar company, and we're going to give it a great shot. With that, thank you very much.